Well, good morning, everybody. Seems like just yesterday we were doing this last year, so time flies when you're having fun, I guess. So what I'm going to talk about in here today is, Rick already alluded to it, CLAAS Connect. That's one of our, that's on our side, that's gone through a complete new transition to a new product. And as he mentioned, if you have not gotten signed up for that or transitioned from telematics to CLAAS Connect, you need to do so because it's going to be very beneficial to you, especially during harvest. And I'm going to point out some of the finer points of CLAAS Connect here on the presentation. And throughout the presentation today, we'll talk about some new features on the combine, but you want to make sure you go to Farm Progress Show or keep an ear out after Farm Progress Show, because we'll be talking about some new stuff there that I'd love to talk about right now, but I just can't talk about until Farm Progress Show. So, yeah, we're going to broaden some product lines, if you will. So on the combine side. So anyway, well, we'll go ahead and get started here. On the CLAAS Connect side, this is where the industry's going. Everything's going to remote monitoring and data management. We started telematics, 15 years ago, at least, I think 15 years ago. That has evolved very well over time, giving operators a lot of opportunities to manage their fleets, to optimize their fleets, analyze the results of the year-end performance. And this continues on with that. So this is our new digital solution. This is our Ops Center equivalent. So it has advanced a lot since just telematics. It goes into farm management as well. So for this year, first we started with the machine management. So basically the first section, the first evolution of this was advancing telematics into a more usable and more user-friendly product. And now for this year, we're adding the farm management, which this month it's now available, where you can go through and analyze your agronomic data that your combine is collecting, and you can also transfer that out into other systems like Ops Center. So on the machine management side, of course, just like any telematics system, it enables you to manage your fleet, monitor your combine remotely anywhere on the globe, from a laptop, from an iPhone, from a tablet, and enable you to watch and see how it's performing, or and compare it to other machines if you're watching multiple combines, and then also go through and analyze and print off or save documents for those activities that it's operating in. So if you haven't gotten CLAAS Connect yet, there's the QR codes right there if you want to take a snapshot of those, and then you can download the app onto your phone, which is very convenient. After we get done with the walk-arounds, maybe during lunch or right after lunch, I'll bring up more of this. We need more computers up here to do this, so we'll bring this up so we can look at it in a little more detail. I'll also have it on my phone we can look at as well. So, but really having that on your phone is going to be very beneficial. As Rick mentioned, there's a lot of things you can do with this app. So machine performance with CLAAS Connect, so you can sit there and monitor everything from your processor time, so your actual harvest time, unloading on the go, idle time, so you can really monitor the efficiencies of the machine. For those that are really curious about how they manage their fleet of machinery, there's a lot of things you can do with this to try to improve your overall performance and efficiency. And document all of it. So if you want to save all those for your own personal records for analysis sake, you can do that as well. Improving uptime. So this is really where that app is going to come in. For example, operating instructions. So your owner's manuals for your specific serial number or serial numbers is in here. And that's important because if there's a serial number break, you don't want to use the owner's manual for the combine right after your serial number break, because it may have some different items in it. So this will give you the exact document for your specific serial number, as well as the lubricant advisor. So the lubricant advisor basically tells you all the different types of lubricants that will be used for your specific serial number combine, tractor, or whatever. And then you can also go through and buy drive type. So if I want to know what type of 90 weight or 80 weight goes into the front feeder house drive gearbox, I can look at that. And then I can also look at the one that goes in the reduction drive just up at the top of the feeder house, because they are different. So you can go in by drive type and look at each specific oil requirements for those drives, and that's very important. Parts isn't in a book anymore, so we put it all on the app. iPad, it's a lot easier to look those parts up on the iPad, especially if you've got field view in the combine. You can scroll through and look at them then. It's a lot easier to keep those things up to date when they're electronic versus printed. Because nobody wants to buy a parts book every year to make sure they got the latest and greatest part numbers. So, and that's going to make things a lot easier when it comes time to ordering online those parts as well. It's also going to enable such things as site-specific applications, if you will. This is, for example, for the forage harvester, but dosing their silage additive. And then also for the combines, your CMOS advisor. So for those that in the past that have used that CMOS advisor for settings, looking up settings for specific crops, you'll probably notice that app no longer works. That app has now been assigned to a serial number, so the only way to get to that app now, or that function, is to register, get your serial number in there, and then go and access it through the app that way. So there'll only be one app. We won't have multiple apps anymore. So that's where the CMOS advisor will be at for not only combine adjustments, but also your grain loss calculator will be in there as well. So everything's all based off of the serial number now. So now in August, so there'll be a new QR code for these as well. We don't have it yet, but for the farm management side, if you want to go through and manage all of your fields, and all the agronomic data for the fields is harvested by the combine, you can do that through CLAAS Connect now, and then you can also export that information out to other systems that you prefer to maybe use for your whole farm, or you can bring that into CLAAS Connect as well. So it's necessary that we play in that arena as well, because that's the only way you're going to be able to advance in the future in the industry, is to be able to not only have the most advanced and highest performing products out in the field, but also the technology to go with it as well. So that's where CLAAS Connect is coming in, and CLAAS has spent a significant amount of resources on developing this new system. So it's working really well. I use it quite regularly, and it's really taken telematics to a whole new level. So a lot of other data that you can look at inside here, and the ability to export is also, we realize that you guys all are probably using something else, and that's important for you to be able to continue using that, and also consider bringing it into this as well. So a lot of different options for managing data. Not only you get your raw data maps, but you can also interpolate your maps and see different types of moisture, yield, you name it, whatever attribute you want to see mapped, it'll do that. So, and it's doing that in conjunction with whatever monitoring system you have in the combine. So if you've got ag leader, if you've got deer, it's still pushing data out to this system as well, as long as you're signed up for it. So any questions on this? And like I said, later on we'll go through the app. Or actually, I'll probably just bring it up on the website so you can see it in larger views than the smaller apps here. So, but it's really user friendly too. It's much easier than what we had previously with the telematics system. So.
Yeah, on that first side, that's the exact diagrams that we look at as well.
Mm-hmm.
All of our counter personnel. So if you see something that, hey, I'm on this page, you can't find it, then just let us know what page you're on, and we can go that way and help too. So exact same system that we use.
Sure. All right. So, if there's no questions on this, we'll go ahead and jump into the clinic portion. Looks like okay. Anyway, so I think I'm missing a couple slides, hit them, but oh well, we'll start here. We'll go out to the combine. I just want to talk about in this session some tips and tricks really before we get out to the walk around and portion of the combine. Rick mentioned PMIs, so your preventative maintenance inspections before harvest. Those are really key to uptime this fall, and they inspect a lot of different areas on the combine. And one thing you really got to watch out for is wear. Wear can bring a combine to its knees probably faster than anything. And it's always good to make sure that all the wearables inside the combine have been replaced, aren't worn too much that they're going to cause your percent engine load to shoot up right away. Usually that's a telltale sign of components that are crop engaging components inside the combine that are worn beyond threshold. Is if you start noticing your percent engine load shooting up after you know you've changed the filters on the combine and your fuel's good, that you might start seeing your percent engine load running a little too high. So a couple of the areas in the combine, especially on the yellow combines, I always hit on this one because this one probably kind of like worn out chopper blades. We got to make sure this rear beater, the rear impeller, is in good shape. That one right there is probably going to make the percent engine load go up pretty good, pretty quick. So before harvest, you want to get that reflighted. You want to make it look like this so you got nice, good leading edges on that rear impeller, especially if you're going to be starting in green stem soybeans. So the part numbers for those wear strips are right here. We have standard duty and we have heavy duty. So right there's the standard duty. Those are about 5 mil, and then you have these right here that are 8 mil. And 8 millimeter, that's how the thickness of the diameter of your hex head on your combine wrench. So my preference is these. So Rick's preference is those as well. not because they are at a premium price, but because they're heavier. They're going to add more weight. They're going to add more inertia to that rear impeller to allow it to chew through those tough green stems a whole lot more efficiently than, say, the lighter duty ones. The lighter duty ones are going to help. It's going to be a night and day difference no matter which ones you put on the impeller. It'll be a night and day difference in those stems. So if you struggled a little bit last year, it's a good idea to probably get those on. And let's say you put a new set on, say, last year or the year before, and they're starting to show a little wear. Well, what you can do is take these from the outside and get a little more life out of them. Take these from the outside, put that one there, take that one, put over here, and then take this one and swap it with this one so that you get the sharper leading edges, the newer leading edges more in the center, and then you can get another season or two out of them that way. So that's a trick that you can do on these. So just flip-flop them from one side to the other, and then you can use then you got the center all reflighted again, which is the area that engages the crop the most, to divide it to go into the rotors. So if you want, just put a Sunnybrook in there. That'll work as well. So it's up to you. Actually, the Sunnybrook is probably going to be about the same price of reflighting one of these, making it look like this all across, versus putting a new Sunnybrook in. The Sunnybrook's going to be really heavy, much higher inertia. So there's probably quite a few in here that have Sunnybrooks. I don't blame you. I'd have one too. So that's we don't have to worry so much on the green ones anymore because that is a big, heavy-duty rear impeller. So also, you can install on the yellow combines the serrated sections in the middle. If you're cutting a lot of really tough beans, that actually acts kind of like a saw blade. The big impeller in the green combines has similar already fastened onto it from the factory. So these are available too. So if you want, instead of putting these in the middle, the smooth ones, you can opt up to the serrated ones and make it a little more aggressive. Now, if you do put those in or have them put in, make sure that they order this one too. So that's your stationary saw blade. I call it a saw blade that goes right here in between the rotors. The reason you want that is that holds the stems in place so that these can saw through them. If you don't have that in there and you leave that cast nose right in there, what'll happen is that right angle right there will pull stems back up, could pull stems back up over. So you need to hold down here so those can rip through them. So they go together. We call it the sunflower kit because that's what it was originally developed for, to saw through soda can sized sunflower stems that were wet up in the Dakotas. So, but it works really good on soybeans. The green combines, we don't have to do this to. This is only for the yellow combines. So the green combines, we changed the whole threshing system around, as you all know, so we don't have to do this. But there's still several yellow combines out there. It's a good idea to make sure that whole transition area in the threshing system is up and running in good condition. The other thing I want to talk about here is the rotor cover plates and the desawning plates. But that's on both green and yellow combines. The yellow combines, if you have rotor cover plates, you've only got 2 sets for the first 2 rotor grates, and then you can have as many as 4 on a green one. Now, the reason I want to talk about these a little bit is these give you a lot more flexibility, and over the last couple years, especially as harvest really dries down and folks let that corn stay in the field longer to get drier out in the field, we start dealing with more and more getting stock pieces in the tank. So these are really good. You can use these as to get that out of there or help get that out of there, as well as the desawning plates. So there's a picture of 2 rotor cover plates, and then this is 4. So what you can do when you run into that late in the season, harvesting your drier corn, and you start getting those, borrow your pen, start getting those stem stock pieces in there about like that. You know where those are coming from? Hold on, let me find my picture here. You know where those are coming from? They're going right through there. So, folks with yellow combines, if you've still got these late in the season, put those in. If you got a green combine and used to have a yellow combine and you still got those, you can put those in. We didn't change the dimensions of the APS grate. So you can put those in there, and that stalk piece, you'll get occasionally one going in that way, but they won't go through that. If you don't have those, what you can do is, if you want, you can flip that desawning plate closed. Now, I only do that sparingly because how much throughput does that APS grate have? What's the number? 30%. So yeah, we pre-separate up to 30%. When you stack those end to end, all 3 of them across the full width of the combine, we're putting 30% of the crop down through those. So I don't want to run with those closed too much, because that might slow you down a little bit. But it is a great quick fix for a situation where you're getting a lot of these stock pieces in your grain tank and you need to get rid of them fast, and you don't have these available to you. So you can use the desawning plates, or you can also leave the desawning plates open and try to use your rotor cover plates as well. Now, when I'm in corn, I'll usually only close my first one down right here, maybe the second one. If I'm pushing pretty good through the field and I'm up over 4,000, 4,500, or 5,000 bushels an hour, I'm probably only going to close one down. Usually the faster you go, you're probably going to have a cleaner sample, the more volume you're putting through there. But close the first one down, maybe the second one. Definitely don't want to close the 3rd and 4th one down, not in corn. But those will also help get rid of some of those stock pieces that get in the tank as well. The fastest one will be your disawning plates, but you don't want to lose any capacity there for very long. But secondly, you could use those 19x40 smooth grates, corn grates. If you got a set of key stock, a couple sets of those key stock grates, and you want to modify one, grind the key stock off of one of them, you can use those as well. Those work really well. Got some flexibility there, but I've just had a lot of questions about that over the last couple years as just given the whole economy and the conditions and everything. Corn sits out in the field longer, it gets drier, and we've been harvesting a lot of dry corn and get a few guys complaining about that. But we've got some real easy fixes for that, to get rid of that. That's really not going to compromise your performance or your capacity so much. But don't forget about these. These are a really good tool to fine-tune the grain sample, but also when we get into some crops that are really chaff heavy, which soybeans and those green stem soybeans, actually those moderate green stems where they're transitioning from green stems to dry, and those stems are starting to get brown. Those are actually the toughest stems out there. Those can generate a lot of chaff. And this is a good way to manage that chaff, because the more you close these down, the longer you hold that's the mog in the rotor cage and put a spin on it longer, you're going to direct more to the chopper and less to the cleaning system. And that's going to make your cleaning shoe a whole lot more efficient in soybeans, because the more chaff you get out of there, chaff's like an insulator. It's a whole lot easier to clean grain from larger particles in the cleaning shoe than it is when you got all that chaff insulating, wrapping around, and the air's, you got to use a lot more air to penetrate through that. So by closing these rotor grates down, we hold the crop in the cage longer, improve separation performance, but also put more spin on that chaff and direct more of it out to the chopper and less to the cleaning shoe. Makes the whole cleaning process more efficient and ultimately gives you a little more capacity that way too. So take advantage of those. Even if you've just got two of them, those two work very well when we're in tough crop, tough conditions out there. The other housekeeping item, I don't know if we've got this one opened up, but everybody's familiar with the prep pans. I always like to make sure that we get these inspected. So pull these out and look at them from last year, especially if you mudded out any soybeans last year. It's probably a good idea to inspect these. They don't build up with a lot of material. They can build up when you're dealing with some high moisture conditions. They are made out of UHMW. UHMW plastic does have a lubricating property, so nothing likes to stick to it or for too long. Usually it'll stick to it, but then it'll eventually work its way off. So they do self-clean. But every once in a while, we'll run into some conditions that get really tough, and you'll get material built up on there, especially if it's been sitting over winter. You might have some material stuck to it, and that'll just limit the travel efficiency of the crop over the top of it as it shakes it back to the cleaning shoe. The green combines have a real easy inspection on the left side. You can open the concave door on the left side is really large, and I can look right down in there. I can stick my hand down in there and feel and see if there's anything built up on them. But otherwise, just pull them right out the front, like the gentleman's doing in the picture, blow them off, hose them off, slide them back up inside there. If you got a yellow one, and sometimes on the yellow ones, those are a bit of a challenge to pull out of there, especially if they got any material built up inside there. Just take a wheel grinder and just buzz the sides off. Just take a millimeter off each side, and they'll slide right up there real easy. The green ones do that. I mean, the green ones, you can just throw them back up in there and they'll slide all the way up in there. But on the yellow ones, they're a lot tighter. The tolerances are much tighter. And if that's the case, if you know you just can't pull them out of there, but you finally get them out of there, just take a wheel grinder and just clean the sides of them off and then slide them back up in there. Sieves. So everybody in this room probably has the CB22s in the bottom. Anybody not have the CB22? I think we've talked about these for so long. We brought them out in 16. They went full standard in 19. And I think everybody's finally got those in the bottom. All those really basically is the deep tooth upper. We just raised the webbing up on them. We did that primarily for CMOS Auto, and but also it does a fantastic job of cleaning the sample up in the grain tank. There's CB22, and that's versus the deep tooth lower sieve right there. So you got a little clean out right in there. Hardly anything in here. That's 0 on the deep tooth sieve, and that's 6 on the CB22. So if you remember, if you think back when the days when we had the deep tooth in the bottom, in beans we'd always have to run those at 0, and it basically created a round hole sieve. Did a pretty good job. You still got some pods through there. Great for corn. You still got a few pods that got down in there, but this is the CB22. So if you haven't gotten it, if you're new to Lexion and you'd like to get a little bit better cleaning lower sieve that doesn't lose any capacity or limit any capacity, that's what the CB22 is. If you've got these in the bottom, those work great. Those are just our old standard frogmouth sieves, really popular in small grains. Corn might need a little more capacity. That's what these will be for. So drop those in there. We got all the part numbers for these inside. So that's really more for the folks that are new to the combines, new to CLAAS. So several other types of sieves if you're thinking about getting into specialty crops. Now, one of our new parts. You're all excited for this one. Our new heavy-duty chopper knife. So this is a thicker knife. There's its part number. Rick has that part number. So write that down. When it comes time to getting new knives for your chopper, go with this one, this part number. So that's going to be important. That's another reason why you want to use CLAAS Connect, because it will have the latest part numbers in it. So a lot of times I'll start the clinic off with this slide because the one feature on a combine that'll put the biggest drag on harvest is the chopper. If your knives look like that, they need to be flipped. That'll do corn. You can start in corn. I wouldn't start in beans like that because your percent engine load is going to go up pretty quick if they're rounded like that. So flip those around so you got a nice right angle when you're starting in soybeans. And it's a little hard to see right here, but I've put an illustration up here. If your knife is in the yellow, you've got enough edge right there, enough mass left on that blade to do a pretty good job. Not the best job, but a pretty good job. If they start to taper down like the red, they're probably time to replace those knives. You're losing mass, not just edge, but also mass. And when you lose mass, you lose the ability to throw material also. So you only chop, just like a lawnmower, you only chop with the bottom third of a knife. If it starts to wear up here on the top corner and you think, well, that's good and sharp, that'll do some chopping. By the time it gets down there, your chopper is really, really struggling. So we don't chop down here a whole lot. Just like a bush hog chops just out on the outside, they don't chop down towards where the blade swings. They actually chop right up here on the top, just like in the combine, and cornhead choppers do the same thing. So want to make sure those get flipped before beans. And then if you have flipped them and they start looking like that, be a good idea to get those changed to this number right here. So, because that, like I said, that does put a good drag on a combine. So this knife right here is in really good shape. So, and always back to this slide, if you break one, change 8. So always make sure you got 8 chopper blades in your toolbox in your combine. And if you don't, if you break number 9 and you don't have 8 of them to change out here to keep everything balanced, you can rob these ones off the outside and put those in the middle, or you can take them off. But whatever you do to one side, do to the 180 degrees, and then do to the 4 on the equal side or on the opposite side of the drum, just to keep it in balance. It's the fastest moving thing on the combine next to the engine, and it can do some it can put some strain on a combine if it's out of balance. So, and worn out. So that's why I usually lead with this, because nothing puts a drag on a combine faster than worn out components, but especially this right here. So we really need to make sure those are in good shape. And we'll show you out at the combine how you can make these last longer too. Some of you probably already know about how to use the stationary knives, but we've got a lot of knives on our chopper, so you can do with a little less stationary knife out there. So we'll talk about that, and that's going to allow that'll let the knives last longer, burn less fuel, have better power availability, more efficiency. So.
You don't want to mix them with the standard ones though, right?
Nope.
You have to change the whole set if you're going to heavy duty.
Yep, because they're different weight. So we'll talk about that, go on on the choppers, talk more about that out there. The other part number for the chopper to talk about here for those that had the chopper without the radial deflectors on it, the turbo chop. If your paddles are starting to wear, if they're cupped. Actually, if you flip them over, so this side is throwing the crop, you'll sling them really far when you got that cupped, when you're slinging this way versus just square paddles. But get this part number right here that's got the one with the bottom right angle cut out of it, because that's going to allow the crop to fan out in the middle, so you don't get those hot spots out in the middle. You get even distribution throughout the back of the combine. But the combination of good knives and these paddles in good shape, relatively good shape, will really make a difference when trying to spread evenly behind the combine. So we'll talk more about this at the combine. And in the back of this, so this presentation, we'll give this to Eric. Eric will load it on the website so you have access to it. But we continue to update this in the back end, all the tips and tricks of different crop conditions, whether you get dry, brittle corn, you get the spongy cob we're leaving kernels on. This is another situation where I would utilize rotor cover plates as well. See, one of the great things about a CLAAS combine is your ability to adjust your threshing system and separation systems independently. That will enable you to really take care of conditions like this without over threshing the crop. If you have just a single rotor combine or a twin rotor combine that has to thresh and separate with the same rotor, you don't get that much flexibility. I can continue to keep my threshing system set to be as gentle on that cob as possible. So set the concave to cob diameter or just a little bit under it to keep it from busting up. That's the biggest problem we run into in soft spongy cob is we just got to get that corn off that cob, so we keep tightening down and we bust that cob up. Then the next thing you know, you're threshing little pieces of cob or not threshing little pieces of cob, and you'll find those laying around the back end of the combine with kernels on them. That's called profit. That's going back on the ground. So we want to keep that in the combine. So we shouldn't have to compromise and just say, get so frustrated and just say, to heck with it, I'm just going to tighten up, grind it up, and go. We don't have to do that on a Lexion or a Treon combine. What we can do is we can just continue to set it like it's dry, keep that concave set to cob diameter, a little tighter maybe, and spin those rotors faster. Take them up to 550 RPM, 600 RPM, get that centrifugal force or separation force greater, and those kernels will leave that cob. And it's a whole lot easier to do that when you got a full cob rather than a bunch of broken up pieces back here. So don't be afraid to do that. The only trade-off for doing that might be got to pull back just a little bit on the stick because I am running so fast. Any rotor combine that runs the rotor too fast, especially in corn, it'll turn into an auger. But you're going to get all those kernels off without grinding all that crop up to do so. So we don't want you to have to compromise on that. That's one of the reasons why we give you that one more adjustment on a CLAAS combine, and that's the ability to adjust your rotors, your separation system separately from threshing. And that really helps out here in these conditions. Our competitors don't get to do that. So, and we'll have all the different grates in there. The only two we really use in this part of the country are round bar, and these maybe the soybean, the 12 mil grates for soybeans also. But on the new green combines, we're using round bar pretty much for everything now. Occasionally we'll use the key stock grates. The yellow combines, we'll use those more often. But the green combines with the larger cylinder and the longer concave, we can pretty much do everything from corn, soybeans, and wheat with it. Not many guys change the round bar for 12 mil in wheat anymore because of the longer concave and larger cylinder. So, any questions? We got a lot more to talk about out at the combine. That's why I keep my presentation a little shorter in here. You guys remember a lot more when you go out and see it in the iron, or your questions start to flow out better. So, no questions? I think that these are my last slides here. So, yep, so we got this all updated for you. So, yes, sir.
On the paddles, you put all 40 cycles with the cut-out in them with black paddles. You watch this. I've done full ones, every other one was partials. For your spread pattern, you go 40.
Oh, on the turbo chop. You know what you can do? There's been folks that do different configurations of those, and I was actually, what size header are you running?
40.
That's what he was running. What this customer did last year up in northern Illinois, north central Illinois, he just ran 2, and he had them indexed 90 degrees from each other. So he had 2 paddles here, 180 degrees, so one on each side, and then he had 1 on each side here, but he had those indexed like this, so when they're spreading, did a beautiful job on 40 foot. I mean, you couldn't see from whether he was going north or south, you couldn't see a break in between. He had these right here. And they were pretty cupped. They were worn. So when he did that, he just removed 2 from each side. The one thing you don't want to do, and because they're like, because usually when you're trying to spread, when they're cupped and you're trying to spread like this, they will flex. The poly will flex, and when the farmer ingenuity starts to come out, we're like, man, we need something that doesn't flex. Let's put some steel plates in there. Don't put steel plates in there. The hub of that spinner isn't strong enough to handle those steel plates not flexing. You want something to flex inside there. So aircraft grade aluminum, that flexes. Don't use cast aluminum. Cast aluminum doesn't flex either. It's lightweight, but it doesn't flex. If you want, you can put those cast fingers that are on the new choppers, on the Pro Chopper, the Premium Chopper. You can put those on there, but there's a gusset kit you've got to get for those to keep those from doing any damage to the hub of that drum, because that's a lot of force going on back there when those are spinning. You got a 40, 45, or 50 foot draper head on, cutting some 70 plus bushel soybeans. So you want to make sure they get gusseted. So there is a gusset kit for those cast fingers. You can put those on, but these paddles right here, make sure you've got them. Make sure you've got the new ones, this style right here. I mean, if you get the regular style, you can just put those in a chop saw and 4 inches up, 4 inches in, and cut that right angle out. That's all that is four here, and zip it off. And if you got a new set you put on last year and they're still good, you can just pop them off and cut that out too. So your choice. You can't hardly see it, but that one's got about a season's worth of use on it right there, a couple seasons. So if you can see that, it's cupped a little bit, you can actually take that off, put it on the other side where the cup portion is going out. That's going to spread really nice too. So just because they're cupped like that doesn't mean they're done. Just flip-flop them around, you'll get a really good spread with those. So, but otherwise, that's all we've got for in here.